I'm sorry. But I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Inside the Sulphurbath. We're very serious tonight.
Wow.
Quite.
That was the most professional intro we've done yet.
Right.
It's only took 19 episodes.
Yeah, 19 episodes.
We finally did it.
Made
All right, that's it. We're done. Good night,
Yeah,
everybody.
good night, guys. Usually it's just like, so, are we live? And we are live
We
now.
are? Okay, good.
Broadcasting on the internet from Bushwick, New York. Again, like quite a formal statement about broadcasting. We've never made that, right?
Yeah. It should be 9 p.m., but it's a little bit after.
It is, yeah. If anybody tuned in right at 9, because they're always on time, thank you for watching our slate for 10 minutes while we got the show ready.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we showed
But
a little
it's really
short.
ready this time.
And we're not only ready, we're broadcasting now.
Yeah.
And that's good to be ready and to be broadcasting at the same time. We are not always doing that. But yeah, we
Most
showed
of
a
the
little
time we're
short at the beginning of
broadcasting
that.
without
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
What was the inspiration for that?
The inspiration for
short
that
there,
was
Mike?
basically not having a video ready and being like,
Ooh.
what can I do right away?
I'm sure there was
That will
more
be
to
intriguing.
it than that, Mike. Come
Like
on.
Coming home to feed the cats.
There wasn't much more in.
Was there any audio to it?
There was audio to that. The funny thing is everybody at home could see that, but we didn't necessarily hear it. It was
I couldn't see it.
It was a speech that Charlie Chaplin gave at the end of The Dictator. And I just kind of figured, that speech and cats and it just worked really well in my
Cameras
brain,
and some stuff that happened.
You guys aren't having it? Yeah, I thought that
No,
would
it
be
was
just like...
Who doesn't love both?
Definitely
Yeah,
happened.
exactly. These
Yeah.
guys are on board.
Yeah,
So.
I'm with it.
So yeah, that was back to it. We missed a couple weeks of having that little intro segment, but it's fun to have that because I think it's kind of off kilter to start a show with. And
There wasn't anything last week?
there was not. No, we were.
We just went right into it.
Yeah, we were down to the wire.
Okay.
Yeah, we're always bustling now. There's so much bustling that's happening. It's hard to keep up with all the bustling.
We can hardly
Yeah.
even get to the hustling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
But this
Can't get to
week,
the hustling because you're too
full
busy
hustle
bustling.
is on.
So what's new with you guys? Anything cool in the world going on? We should mention.
How about you, Blaine?
No, not much going on here. I've been out of it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of sitting on these when I'm available.
Out of
What,
out of
like a
this?
Out of
Writer's
this, I feel like I
hiatus?
haven't been here for a while doing
Yeah.
these.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, which is
Were you
nice to
doing
be back.
anything instead of?
Nah, just staring at a wall.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's all I do when I'm
How-
not here.
How'd that go?
The wall didn't fall down.
Good.
Yeah.
So how bad could it have been?
True to form.
I feel pretty good that you spent time staring at a wall and then came back to us.
Thanks. You know,
Yeah, like we're better than
Well,
just
really made
we'll
it
see how this goes, Mike.
Yeah, right.
You really like.
I don't know what I'll be doing next week.
Day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be here. What's going on for the evening?
We have journalist Jika Gonzalez, and she's going to talk with us and share some of her photos with us. And we also have Mike Redman, who runs his own label, and he's going to talk to us about music and his participation in creating, collaborating, and producing music. I think it's going to be really cool.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, quite a
Another-
lineup.
Yeah,
another
quite
wide
a lineup.
variety.
I think it's good that we cover the bases, right? We always have something that's audio and something that's visual and something that's
I think
contextual,
we always
right?
aspire to, but this
Mhm.
week we've done it.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
Exactly. And
Always
so,
wide variety.
yeah, in that wide variety, I think we're gonna have a good show, right? Yeah.
Well, let's
Also,
let it be the
Halloween.
judge of
Halloween's
itself.
coming up soon,
Oh yeah.
and we're gonna have a post-Halloween show. But also, we're playing a show at Mama Joy's on Halloween night. So every Thursday and Friday, we've been doing that Mama Joy's show, and that's been really interesting. We're always doing a calling all cars, call to arms to come play. Any musicians, any previous guests on the show or whatever, we got to hit everybody up. So
Yeah,
send
so
it-
if
send
you're a
us emails
musician
and
or
such.
know a musician in Bushwick who'd like to play music live for free, give us an email.
Yeah, it is sponsored by a bar, and there are food and bevy available for all the bands. But,
Oh yeah,
but it's
play
really
for-
cool, though.
play
We've
for
had a lot of
drinks
good
and food.
variation, different things that have happened there, too. So it's been really great. It's kind of a crossover between us and them with different artists doing, collaborative work. It's been
Yeah.
really cool.
It's quite a lot of talent in the
Mhm.
neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The neighborhood, that is, not the talent.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're placed in just the right little cornerstone spot to be a filter to get to, have all these people like come through the studio and, being witness to all this art and all these happenings in the neighborhood. It's pretty awesome. So, yeah, cool. So all that said, let's start our first segment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to invite out Jika Gonzalez, journalist. Jika Gonzalez, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
Jika. How are you tonight?
Good.
Cool. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is kind of weird.
It is
I'm
weird, right? It's just-
usually behind the camera, not in front of it.
yeah.
So it's a weird flip of scenario for you.
Definitely. Yeah.
So we wanted you in front of the camera on our show so you could share some of your photos and talk about what you're doing in journalism with us.
Sure. So I thought I would show some images from Sandy from last year, since we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the hurricane on the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
I covered a story where I concentrated on undocumented immigrants that lost their homes during the hurricane and who, because of their immigration status, they cannot apply for federal aid or local government aid. So they really rely on charities or any other help they can get in their communities. And, basically we're homeless for a pretty long time. So those are the images that I brought in.
Great. Yeah, I read that article that you wrote on the mantle that you're referring to, and there was some specifically some woman's voice that you had captured in that was talking about how difficult it was for her to even try to apply, and this whole litany of things that you would have to do to basically at the end of the day not get funding anyway. And so that's the word that spread, and a lot of people just didn't even try because they know that the odds are against them. And of course, at a time like after losing your home, and it's everybody in that city losing their home together, of course, and it didn't actually get aid the same way distributed because of reasons like this.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things to, you can pull apart from it, and, a lot of it as well, maybe they're not entitled to federal aid because they're not citizens, or because they don't have a green card, or because they don't pay taxes the same way an American citizen would. But a lot of these people do have American-born children, and they do actually they are supposed to qualify for aid. Yet, because of a lot of miscommunication between the agencies, they weren't receiving it, or it was taking a really, really long time for them to get a response, and therefore they really just gave up. And there's sort of this apathy towards. I feel they think people don't care, and they've sort of learned to survive under those circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I haven't really studied, catastrophe relief or anything like that too much, but from what I do know, it seems like that there is kind of a history of, whether it's the 9/11 first responders, it took them forever for the city of New York to be able to compensate and to help them with their medical bills, and the situation that you're talking about here. It's not like there's a really high bar set for that kind of situation in general for, as somebody would say, a full citizen of the United States or not, right? I mean...
Yeah, exactly. I mean... I don't want to blame. It's not about pointing blame anywhere specifically. It's just simply, if we're paying attention to everything that needs to be we need to be paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm from Mexico. I have dual citizenship, so I kind of come from this weird perspective where I'm very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I can be on both sides, literally. And also, I think, just understand it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And talking to these people, it's very clear that they feel very, very isolated, and they don't participate themselves because of this apathy. But I'm not sure exactly how this has to change. But basically, I think it's a lot about communication. So where they are qualified for aid, we should be working more to make that apparent,
Mm-hmm.
and not kind of put these roadblocks up where they're not being told that they can or they can't. They're simply not being told anything.
Yeah. And to not let red tape stop somebody from getting their life back together after a catastrophe like that.
Exactly. Although I'm sure a lot of people that are qualified American citizens that were up to receive stuff from FEMA would tell you that they went through a lot of red tape too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of an overall picture. I just chose to focus specifically on that community.
Mm-hmm. Great. So can we look at some of the images that you brought with you today?
Yeah, sure. You can ask me questions. I'll walk you
Well,
through
that was a
what
little bit of
they
bad
are.
timing because the image, yeah. Yeah, they're going to come up here in a second. And so how long after the hurricane were you there? When were you taking these photos?
So I met the primary subjects of the piece I wrote on the 4th day after the hurricane, which is basically when I was able to get out to Staten Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this community, Midland Beach, which is where most of the people that died for any reason related to the hurricane died. And it just happened to be that they have a large immigrant population, mostly Hispanic, a lot of Mexicans, and a lot of Central Americans. I started talking to them, and I actually wanted to do a story on them from the beginning, but their cell phones were disconnected for about a month, and I reached out to them again in January. So the hurricane happened on the 29th of October. I reached out to them in January, and I just started hanging out with them through January, February, and March. And not only those first people that I spoke to, but I reached out to a bunch of people in the community through one nonprofit who specifically had a report on the condition on immigrants, both documented and undocumented, and which is the only report I found over the course of the 6 months I was reporting on it. Yeah. So.
And that wasn't the city making that document. That
No,
was a nonprofit,
it's a nonprofit.
actually collecting the data. Yeah.
Exactly. A nonprofit. It's called Make the Road. They're pretty big in New York. They're sort of like a co-op. Really shouldn't call it a nonprofit, but basically they do a lot of community outreach, and they bring in a lot of immigrants to come in and start advocating for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they really just want them to come in, learn their rights, and try to spread the word and try to act when something is being done against them or isn't in their favor, and where they should really be asking for what they deserve or what they have a right to.
Mm-hmm.
we're having problems with the photos.
Yeah, they're gonna queue up in just 1 second. Sorry, stand by 1 second.
So when when Sandy happened,
Yeah.
what is it that, I guess, if anything specific, motivated you to go out there and do it? Is it sort of something you're prone to do as it is, or was it something about that event that specifically sparked your actions?
A little bit of both. I was actually in journalism school at the time, so I was required to do so.
Right.
And that, that was part of it. But the other part is that I am interested in disaster relief. I'm interested in what happens to people when they lose, everything they've probably worked their lives to build.
Right.
And so whether it be a middle-class working family on Staten Island, a family of firefighters, or, undocumented immigrants that work labor for a, payroll that's well underneath minimum wage.
Right.
I'm interested in how they deal with it. And,
Well, yeah.
and it just so happened to happen in New York when I was here and when I was in journalism school.
Yeah. And I mean, for the vast majority of people, Sandy was an inconvenience. And then a week later, it was back to business as usual. So I think it's specifically very important that these views be put out there so we can see, by the way, while you're still at work, there are people that are still having a lot of trouble right now. It's not just that the subway's working again.
Exactly. I mean, I live, in Harlem, and nothing really happened in Harlem. I mean, a couple of buildings, a couple of businesses, did get damaged and did get some flooding, especially on the east side, not so much on the west side. But everything was as normal, not even, a week later, but basically the very next day.
Mm-hmm.
And but going down, it really looked like a conflict zone. Everything was, and there was helicopters above, and just, houses turned upside down, a refrigerator in the middle of the road, and you wouldn't know that if it weren't for the pictures and if you didn't make the trip down there.
Right. Now I remember after Sandy seeing a lot of pictures just all around the city, and it was really bizarre just to see, like you're saying, this war zone, this disaster area that happened right here. And in that time where everyone's just kind of getting a free week off, even then we're just kind of throwing a deaf ear to it for the most part. It's really easy to just internalize your own specific problems and worry about those.
Exactly. And I also think what was kind of crazy about it was we were all warned about Irene the year before.
Right.
And nothing much happened. Everybody's like, what's the big deal? And then comes Sandy, and a lot of people who should have evacuated didn't evacuate because they didn't want to. And,
right.
and I understand it. I wouldn't want to evacuate my home either. And then when you're talking about this specific population of immigrants, a lot of them weren't really getting the message that they should evacuate. Or in the case of two of the ones that I followed, they were required to stay because it was their job to look after a motel where they worked at.
Right.
And
so even if it was a legal obligation to evacuate, they still had their illegal work obligation to it.
Exactly. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and a lot of stuff that we do need to pay attention to and hopefully learn from. Although I have to say that in doing this story, I looked a lot at stuff from Katrina, and I have to say it was even worse in Katrina.
Yeah.
So, maybe we acted a little bit better, but in this specifically, but, in the case of Katrina, even afterwards, in the aftermath, in the rebuilding, they brought in a lot of undocumented immigrants to rebuild, and a lot of them were abandoned. They weren't paid. There's a great journalist, Tina Sussman, who did that story that I'm remembering right now, where, she found all these people, these workers, migrant workers, who were being brought to rebuild by these, huge companies that the government is paying and are getting all these concessions, but these workers are basically being abandoned and not seeing any of it.
So it was the government who was bringing them in?
Yeah, they're in contract by FEMA or federal government. Basically, they need to rebuild.
Right.
So they hire a company, and that company hires workers that aren't getting
Gotcha.
even minimum wage or what
Mhm.
they're supposed to be getting, which should probably be above minimum wage.
Yeah. But you'd think something like that they'd be a little more sensitive to.
Yeah, especially in this
especially
case.
with all of especially in the South, the opposition to immigration and the laws that have been put in place to keep that from happening. So now there's a disaster, and who do we want to have handle it? Well, seems a little strange to me.
Exactly, and it happened here too. I wasn't able to really get. It was a story that didn't come together for me.
Right.
But I did talk to a lot of workers here, and the first few days after Sandy, first a lot of people were volunteering, but after that, after the cleaning and after the dismantling, comes the rebuilding.
Right. After everyone had to go
And-
back to work.
Exactly, and they are the ones a lot of them are the ones that are rebuilding, and are we sure that they are under contract that is legal? Are they getting the
Right.
the pay that they deserve? Because whether they're undocumented or not, they're still, they should still be getting their wages.
Absolutely.
Sound a little bit more like an activist right now than a journalist, but it's
Oh no, I think in my opinion, I'm not a journalist in any way, other than I guess speak my opinion and give other people's opinions sometimes. But I think that journalism and activism do go very close together, in that if you have an activist mentality, if you think that there are things that need to be looked at, what better way than to talk about it, to present it in a way that here are the facts and do with it what you will. Not very much going to throw my opinion into it, but I think it's pretty obvious that these things going in this order don't make as much sense as if we're, not paying attention to them, obviously.
exactly. And I mean, basically, it's what you see, and this is what
Right.
this is what I saw, and the two guys that I followed very closely, they lost their home.
Right.
And they were entitled to their security deposit back from, their landlord. And, 6 months later, the landlord hadn't been able to give them the money. And now
Right.
he didn't respond to my phone calls for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But, whether he really couldn't, did he really not have, because it was maybe $700,
Right.
not even that much money when you, in the great scope of things, which would have been a lot for these guys,
Right.
the guys renting from him. But 6 months later, they hadn't seen that security deposit come back.
Right. And even if it's not, even if it is a lot for that landlord to put forward, that's not necessarily an excuse for that.
Right. It's still.
But I'm sure that it was a lot easier to get around any legalities, especially if they're undocumented.
Exactly, because they're not going to take any,
Right.
they're not going to act against him. They're not going to bring a lawsuit. They're not going to bring a lawyer into it. They're just sort of going to have to let it be.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of the case that they're having, and that I saw, with multiple people.
Right. And not to go too much towards the activist side of things, but I'm feeling interested in it right now. What, in your opinion, can or should people be doing now that they maybe know more about it and say, okay, this is happening? What can I do about it? Because I think that that's what troubles a lot of people who do care but don't know.
Well, I guess if from the outside, it's just being aware of it and being tolerant to certain things, and maybe being open-minded to what X person may or may not represent, and not just putting a label on anybody.
Right.
I do say undocumented. I don't say illegal, because I do believe that nobody is illegal, and if they
Right.
don't have papers, well, they just don't have papers, and the circumstances behind that, you don't know them.
Yeah.
So that's from my standing point. The other thing is, I think in this case, I really think it's more about them speaking up for themselves, and I think a lot more happens when a community that feels neglected or abandoned actually comes out of the shadows, or comes out and starts speaking their mind and starts saying, what they need, what they want, and start organizing themselves.
Yeah.
And then support to that, I think, is really important. So this is just the first of a series of 20. It's an image of a house that did make it through a cracked windshield of a car that was abandoned for at least 4 months, which is when I took the photo. I'm not sure when they picked it up, if they ever did. That is one of my main characters. He lost his home, and he had a roommate. They both lost their home, and now they've been living in a motel ever since. They still are, 1 year later. And basically just, sharing a room in conditions that most people wouldn't want to live in. But behind him is a structure that burned to the ground and was still there, just the same, months later.
So at what point, you said months later, in relation to the actual storm, when were these taken primarily?
These were taken between the end of January 2013 and April 2013. So you're talking about the month 4, 5, and 6 after Sandy. There's a lot of patriotism in Staten Island. I think every single time there's a natural disaster or any other kind of disaster, flags go up like crazy. Staten Island is particularly Republican, and so a lot of flags go up, a lot of firefighters, a lot of policemen. That is the room. As you can see, the window behind him is cracked still with duct tape. It's kind of this juxtaposition with the painting on the right. That's kind of like very motel perfect scenario thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
Where
the
is
next, I'm sorry.
Where is he?
This is all Midland Beach in Staten Island.
But this is his home?
That's the motel. That's the
Motel.
room that they've been living in ever since. It's very cramped, as you can see.
I see.
They sleep on the floor. And that's the motel from the outside. So they take turns. They used to have a queen bed, and then they switched for a single bed. And they take turns. One sleeps on the floor, the other sleeps on the bed. They cook there. Their meals are all cooked in that little corner. Basically, their entertainment consists of TV. There's a lot of drinking, a lot of beer, and I think that's that comes from a lot of loneliness. That picture is just to show, kind of this waiting game where that's all they do. If they're not working, they're just sort of sitting and waiting. Mm-hmm. This is a car right outside of the motel with a swastika. I chose to use this picture just because I think there's a lot of tension on Staten Island. And like I said, it's a very Republican borough. It's the Republican borough of the 5 boroughs of New York. And a lot of people there actually don't want to be part of New York City. Because New York is sort of thought of as this more liberal left wing or democratic place. Mm-hmm. This is the window of his home that was, destroyed. The landlord basically had started fixing it up, but it's just sort of a structure and he can't really get in anymore. That's just, a view on Staten Island, again with the flags, very patriotic. Mm-hmm. And, if you walk there, I'm sure still now you'll see that. This is a shelter. This is another woman that I followed, and she was lucky enough to find a space at a shelter, but still kind of a dicey situation where she couldn't find a job. She was fired from her job because she wasn't able to get to her job because all transportation was down right after the storm. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of unleashed a chain of events. There, the same woman is looking at pictures from home. She sends money home whenever she can. And that's just her on her commute. Usually takes her 3 hours to get anywhere from the island. This picture is a little bit about kind of the nerves that she has, as well as the damage on her hands from working. She is a domestic worker and basically makes a living cleaning other people's homes or cooking at local restaurants in Staten Island. Mm-hmm. And that's her working at a home in Brooklyn.
And so this is just one of the people that you were living with and following around, or were you
Not
just, like
live-
staying with them? Or?
Not living with. I just hung out with them a lot. I'd go out there whatever time I could and just hang out with them and just follow them around to their jobs or just hanging out in their rooms or their non-rooms because the motel where these people were staying isn't really their home, or this woman in the shelter where we actually had to sneak in because they wouldn't let me in, and then just kind of waiting, hanging out.
How did you approach them? I mean, how do you? I mean, it's got to be an odd situation for them. So they're in a place where they're not familiar with, and in circumstances they're not used to. No one is, and then like some sort of outsider comes in, and how do you approach them? How do they accept? How did that go down?
Yeah. Well, it helps that I speak Spanish, so that automatically, if I just come up and say, hi, in Spanish and start a conversation, because I don't look Hispanic, there's sort of people are curious about me, and it tends to be a conversation starter, and I just take it from there. I'm very open about what I'm doing. I'm here to document what's happening. I'm here to follow you, tell your story. If they agree, that's great. If not, I move on. The guys I met on the street while I was in Staten Island, again 4 days after the hurricane. The woman I actually met through that organization that I worked with, Make the Road New York. So they introduced me to a lot of people that were had a lot of stuff, like they lost their homes or they lost property or were affected by the hurricane. This is one of the characters, and he works in this hotel, and he kind of lives in this makeshift room with a roommate for now, and this is this party room underneath this motel, and it's just kind of this these grand lamps on the ceiling, and it's just kind of weird and kind of creepy and really, really dark. And it's lonely, and it's kind of sad, and seeing him, how hard he works, and then kind of putting him in this room is just, I don't know, it's disturbing in a way to me.
It is quite a disturbing picture, yeah. Just like there's this Dutch angle going on, and everything's off kilter, and yeah, you can see all of everything he's dealing with in his pose on that table.
And it's also this place where there's, you can imagine they would have these grand, extravagant parties, and this is his leisure time after his hard working day, and there's nothing happening. He's just sitting at a table.
Yeah, it's hard to make these pictures of kind of trying to show this because they're not very dramatic. They're very quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very still. Right. And we're used to, we need more, we need drama, we need action.
Yeah.
And these are, the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think just by the nature that it's after Hurricane Sandy, that alone means this is a quiet after the storm. These are the repercussions.
Exactly.
This is what we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm. And then this last one for me is just, kind of represents, it's New York skyline in the background, and, this woman that's here by herself. Her entire family's in Mexico. She sends them money when she can. And it's kind of this, not even this American dream thing, because she doesn't even have that. That's not what she's here for, not necessarily. She tries to provide for her family, but she doesn't aspire to much more than that.
Yeah. And where's she sitting right now?
She's sitting on the Staten Island ferry.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of her commute on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's this in this composition, and of course it's probably just by chance, but or it might not be. I don't know. That's my question is, she's so alone, like that last photo with the man in the room. Yep. And it's this, like you brought out, Greg, the previous photo, it's reusing in a different way, recontextualizing this room that's supposed to be for celebrating. And like here is this room that's supposed to be for transport and a crowded commute, but there's just one person. It looks so gloomy and...
Exactly. So, yeah, that's sort of, what I felt and what I felt when I was with them and what I saw. So that's what I wanted to capture. There's not a lot happening.
Yeah, great.
And it's very repetitive. It's, it's very repetitive but uncertain. It's not you don't have the certainty of having your same job, the next day. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's kind of like this cycle over and over again where there's not, they learn to have this very small satisfaction. There's going and having a cup of coffee, and that's basically the highlight of a day, or a beer.
How long have you actually been doing photography? I see such a great sense of storytelling in your work and capturing the moment. Have you been doing that for a long time?
I started a little bit of photography in college, so about since 2008-ish, and gradually I consider myself a multimedia or multi-platform journalist, so I care more about the story than the medium. So if I feel like it's more of a video story, I'll try to do video. If it's more of a photo story, I'll try to do photo. I also write. But yeah, it's really trying to adapt to what the circumstances A, allow, and B, what you think will best represent that story. Mm-hmm. So
very cool. Yeah, quite touching work. And so do you have some work on the mantle that people can find, right?
Yeah, if you go onto the mantle and, I'm on their writers page, it's Jika, Jika Gonzalez, and or you can, find me on it. I have a little web presence, so
okay.
You can Google me, you'll find me. There's not that many people with my name, but yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your images and joining us. Yeah, very
Thanks
cool.
for having me.
Jika Gonzalez, thank you very much. Yeah, welcome back. Sitting with us now, we've got Mike Redman. Mike, thanks for joining us on episode 19.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
great,
Good
guys.
to see
Thanks.
you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So, we are friends through Fumio, and both of us have worked with Fumio a little bit doing some music. And he suggested that you come on the show, and I was really pleased to see the stuff that you had on your site and everything.
Oh, great. Thanks.
So can you give us kind of a breakdown of where you're from and how long you've been doing music?
Well, I'm from the Netherlands, Rotterdam City. And I've been, into music and actually messing around with video as well for years, since the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started with just screwing open cassette tapes, and messing around with cutting and
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with splicing. Yeah, the VHS splicing days. Yeah. So cool.
Make loop tapes and
Mm-hmm.
just dig for records, and I thought I was the only one that does done such a thing,
Mm-hmm.
But then you started to read magazines, see stuff on TV, and during the 80s, everybody was doing it. But still, I had a lot of fun doing it, and it made me to progress a little and find out more about other equipment, meet up with other people, share ideas, and became more serious and still have the same amount of fun, with the period that I was really exploring, the basics.
Cool. Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, it's good to hear you say that. You're still having the same amount of fun. That's great. And you brought a lot of your work to show with us and share with us today, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. So I don't know if it's, might be confusing a little, but.
No, I think, it'll be nice just to go right into it. But before we do, can you tell us right now, obviously we're sitting here in Bushwick hanging out in Brooklyn. You come to New York and hang out once in a while, right?
Yeah, I fell in love with New York City, a long time ago. And, the city is so vibrant, and there's a lot of stories here, and it just doesn't stop. So it keeps attracting me to come here and, speak to people, hear stories, get inspired. And,
That's really great. And you have a lot of associates and collaborators in town that you drop in on kind of thing. I know you do with Fumio, right? Yeah,
Fumio's, great. And we met a couple of years ago, and he gave me a CD and listened to the music. And I was like, wow, this is really some really original stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And really linked with the stuff that I like. And we emailed back and forth, which... ended up in releasing his album, the Waterbrain album, on my own little independent record label back in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So I was really excited, to meet Fumio and work with him, and so also, being here,
Mm-hmm.
as a result of meeting up years before. So
yeah, that's great. So you released his album on Red Rum Records, right?
Yeah.
And so can we look at some of the images here and talk about that? How long have you had the label, and can you tell us about how it started?
Yeah, it started in the late 90s. I was working with a lot of people back then, a lot of friends. Actually, one of my friends, Marvin Piquet, P-Mode, actually moved to New York 2 years ago.
Marvin Piquet was on our show.
Right.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Oh.
That's another connect right there. And we used to organize a lot of parties at a local venue in Rotterdam. You know, a lot of it was rap related, and these parties became actually pretty popular back then because there were not a lot of people organizing rap events anymore. Kind of died out after, you know, the 80s boom, so to say. And so we picked it up a little because we missed, you know, the whole sound of it, you know, and the whole culture, actually, you know, digging for records, you know, everybody was looking for samples, you know, going to flea markets, you know, buying all these cut out albums, and you know, everybody's really, you know, creative, you know, also with writing lyrics, you know, all the rap, hip hop.
So you think there was like a missing element of that there? And
during
you
that
kind of
period of
decided,
time?
let's
There
create
was,
it ourselves. And
Yeah,
that's cool.
And we decided not to wait on anybody else and just do it ourselves. And from that, you know, it just attracted a lot of people with, you know, similar-minded, you know, people that didn't have a chance to actually be on stage and try, you know, their latest tracks, you know, because they were just working, you know, at home, you know. And yeah, I thought it was, you know, a good idea to preserve it in a way. So we started compiling these CDs, and yeah, it became a national thing.
Okay, so it started from the live event of everybody bringing their stuff out to the table.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you guys
there
were
were
recording and archiving that.
Some really good acts, and also some really horrible acts, you know.
The whole range, I'm sure.
You know, but it was tough because the crowd was really serious about, you know, their craft, you know, and everybody was like, okay, what do you got to offer, you know? Is it, you know, good enough, you know? So actually the crowd decided, you know, what was good and what wasn't. And
Cool.
so we did this series of compilations, and also started inviting people from, you know, Mecca, USA, you know, New York City, and invited, you know, Big Daddy Kane to perform, and you know, a lot of, you know, our heroes. And so it became pretty serious. And
oh, that's great. Big Daddy Kane was there?
yeah, Big Daddy Kane was there.
That's
De La
awesome.
Soul was there.
Great. Wow.
You know, Arsonist. You know, a lot of great, you know, New York acts. And yeah, so we're really honored having all these, you know, heroes, you know,
That's
on the stage.
some
and
classic Silver Age stuff. Right
yeah,
there you're
yeah.
talking about, man. The
Yeah,
perfect,
also-
those 90s rappers right in there were great.
and we made sure that a lot of local acts, you know, were sport acts, you know, during these bigger shows. And yeah,
Oh,
we
that's
just
awesome.
try to help each other a little, you know, just to
Yeah.
get stuff done.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this is something that still goes on there today in Rotterdam?
No, actually we stopped organizing these events in 2005, I think. Yeah, but you know, was there for years. And we also went to different cities, and we were invited, you know, organizing stuff abroad as well, you know. And yeah, that gave, you know, new inspiration, and fed a lot of new ideas, you know, to take it a step further, and actually release a lot of artists on you know, this small record label, you know. And back then it wasn't really common to have an independent label. It was, you know, in the 90s, so I really didn't know what I was doing. No, but the stuff was really underground, and nobody wanted to, you know, really work with these guys, you know, because yeah, they didn't understand the sound that they were producing. You know, it was really raw stuff, and it was all about, you know, the strange credibility thing, you know, that was going on too, you know, and eventually, you know, right now, you know, everybody has an independent label. When you're on SoundCloud, you're, you know, more or less an independent label now. So a lot of stuff changed, but you know, I love just putting out physical stuff. You know, release vinyl and CDs still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. It seemed like you had a lot collected on the label too, right? Do you have a certain, like, how many releases are on the label now?
Well, it was 44 releases, but it also depended much on, you know, the finance, you know, because we were always out of money, you know. We didn't have money, and so we made very terrible deals, you know, with the venues. You know, they cashed, you know, a lot, because was a lot of crowd, but we didn't hear of a door deal or nothing like that. You know,
Yeah.
we're just doing it for fun, and out of a certain passion. So yeah, we got fooled a lot, but we had fun too. And
Yeah, the
we
fun
learned
and
from our
experience and everything you guys
mistakes.
had, for
Yeah,
sure, yeah. And having that be kind of this birthing place for this whole record that you're still carrying on today.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah, well, let's look at some more of these images here.
So what do we got coming up in these?
So it seems like you have a pretty varied past doing a lot of different things. You were talking about doing video and some of the different iconography stuff for your graphics and the Red Rum stuff. I like that.
Yeah, actually, this is something completely different. It's I'm also doing art, and this is
Mhm.
this is a picture from a series called Faces of Curacao, because I was visiting on island Curacao, near Aruba, and I can't really sit still, and still I was on this beach, so I decided just to walk around a little
Mm-hmm.
with my camera, and all of a sudden I had the feeling that something was looking at me a little, so I was like, oh. So that was that
Wow.
skull that you see over there.
Yeah.
It wasn't
great.
assembled or anything. It was just there. And so I started looking at the beach differently since I saw this. And a lot of different faces and images popped up. And so I made, all these different pictures, selected the best ones, and turned it into a exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
So that became the Faces of Curacao exhibition.
Oh, I see. Cool.
And
This is some howling or screaming happening in this one, or what?
Yeah. And it's all erodes, the coral, stone.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's I didn't touch it, because it was just everybody can just assemble a face,
Right.
They
Right.
weren't your faces; they were already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
And
cool.
after this, my girlfriend Faranu, she's a visual artist. She makes these huge charcoal drawings, and so we decided to combine these different elements, photography and these drawings. So she used this as an inspiration for her drawings, and which resulted in this exhibition. And we had it in Curacao, Rotterdam, and in Brooklyn as well, at Residency Unlimited, RU.
Oh, great. When
yeah.
when was that?
That was in 2011, I think.
This one's really striking. I like this one a lot. And so you're doing this kind of anthropomorphism in a found poem kind of sense, where you're just picking something
which is
up.
totally different from
Mhm.
the rest of the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah. Very intriguing. And what are the images here that we're seeing?
That's actually 4 photographs of the same image, but it's I blurred it, with the lens.
Okay.
So you really have to, look at it in a different
It's
way.
the stages of being blurred, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
from one to the next. Yeah, that's great.
Because it's it's a face, but it's not a face, of course. It's just a piece of rock or coral. This is something I did during artist in residence in Dumbo at Bo Spacia Gallery earlier this year. And this
And
was
what we're
based.
seeing now is a detail of it?
Yeah,
Is
that's
it-
a detail. And I used the surroundings of the area of Dumbo as an inspiration, which resulted in it's a collage of different photographs.
Hmm.
And this is a combination of the work of Faranu, which is a charcoal drawing, and on top of that, I made a projection, a video layer, which was all filmed in Dumbo as well. More focusing on the textures of the surrounding of
Mhm.
the
And
neighborhood.
It looks like she's looking out a window at clouds or something. What, this is a charcoal drawing that she's looking at?
Yeah,
And then that was
with
projected
video
on?
on top.
Okay. got
Yeah,
it.
so it's a combination. Sometimes you don't really know if it's a charcoal drawing or video that you're looking at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of
That's great.
the challenge, just to combine it like that. Yeah, that's Faranu and myself. It's a promotional picture.
Cool.
Yeah. It's taken in Rotterdam. It's actually the highest building in Rotterdam, so compared to New York, it's just peanuts, Oh, it is a pretty old school picture in the 90s where I actually made a sculpture from, it's a chocolate sculpture, a public
Really?
performance, and it's a cube of chocolate, 1,000 kilos.
Wow.
And actually all the bystanders could just grab pieces of chocolate and it was in times be pretty aggressive too it's mine because these big chunks of chocolate will fall off and
Because you're sculpting it.
yeah yeah and so it eventually turned into a sculpture statue, so to say.
What were you sculpting out of it actually?
Well, it had to do with the transport of chocolate in Amsterdam and the chocolate transport. I didn't know that, but it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And so they did this chocolate festival, and I was just a small part within that festival.
Okay. And what are we seeing here? This is a table
This
and
is
chairs.
yeah, this is actually a chair and a table made of vinyl records.
Oh, I
so
see.
it's actually
Yeah.
kind of a a turntable.
Awesome.
Yeah. And this
Yes, it
was
is.
back in 2001 or no, 2000. I made this one. Yeah.
And so
Turntable
did-
and chair.
mhm. Did you use a mold of somehow, or did you just start from scratch and start building them, or?
Oh no, I used a real chair, as a base for the.
Did you melt it on top of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, melted. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And but all these records, were just scratch records. I didn't want to, insult anybody.
Yeah.
Nothing of value there.
Wait, that's mine.
Just some Herb
Yeah.
Alpert.
So, can you set up this next video clip we're about to see? It's called "Songs of Charcoal."
Oh yeah. Well, Songs of Charcoal. That's a project that I did with Farinu as well, and it was a.
Yeah, that was really great, Mike. Can you
Well,
give us a rundown of what we were just looking at and how you made it?
Oh yeah. Well, the most important thing is, of course, the wooden chair turned into charcoal, which was actually the material that Farino used to make new drawings with. And I made the music, for the video, and also that track is also featured on the compilation CD, which is also called Songs of Charcoal.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And Water Brain is on there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's really pretty dark, atmospheric compilation CD, with also the Kilimanjaro Dark Jazz Ensemble. They're pretty well known within certain regions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's classical music also combined with jazzy type stuff, but very dark stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really awesome.
Thanks.
What are we looking at right now? This is more back to your graphic
this
design?
is just this is an album cover that I painted for a Rotterdam based artist.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's an MC, and he
Mhm.
wanted to do something with he being the God MC,
And what's his name?
Farai.
Farai.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so I came up with this idea. The title was Up in the Sky, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna paint a hand holding a microphone and F everybody else.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, really.
This is another album cover that I painted for this music project called Worm Skull.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
a
appropriate.
collaboration between Balázs Pandi, who's a Hungarian drummer,
Mhm.
and a breakcore artist, actually breakcore hero, so to say, Bongra from the Netherlands. And we have this project called Worm Skull, which combines electronic music with live instruments as well. It's pretty hardcore type stuff.
Mhm.
Also, we're influenced a lot by exploitation movies, cult
Mhm.
movies, horror.
I mean,
Yeah, that's cool.
Worm Skull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Come on.
So, yeah,
That's awesome.
Says it all.
Yeah.
yeah, and we're about to record a new record beginning next year, and so let's see what comes out of that.
Awesome.
We're not really sure yet.
You've
We'll
mentioned a
find
couple
out.
different musical acts already. Do you have a web page or something that people can tune into to hear all these different things?
Yeah, well, I have a Red Rum Records Bandcamp.
Okay.
Records ending with a Z. There's also another Red Rum Records with an S, so
Mhm.
that could be confusing. But
But you
yeah,
guys
there's
have been around for a while.
yeah.
So
yeah.
they just must. Somebody just grabbed that before you did.
Probably I
That's
don't know.
rough. They I'm sure. they
No,
haven't
Red
been
Rum.
around
It's
as long.
obviously coming from The Shining, of course.
Yeah.
But it's also a combination of two last names, Redman and Russell Music. So
Mm.
we actually combined that. Red Rum Records Bandcamp page is probably
With a Z. Red
Yeah.
Rum Records.
Red Rum Records
Z.
with a Z.
Yeah,
Bandcamp.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Because you've mentioned a couple things. I want everybody to be able to tune in and hear it all.
And Red Rum Records website is offline, because I'm really not online too much,
Yeah.
actually,
But if it ever goes up, does that have a Z too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Cool. And what are we seeing? This one
Consistency
here.
is good.
This is a mannequin or a model or?
Yeah, this is a model. This is a really old picture, I think from '97. I was doing a lot of special makeup effects for movies
Mm-hmm.
and television programs, and this one actually was made for a museum. It's a live cast from an actor. This one is too, but this one is finished. The previous one was actually the earlier stage of this one.
Mm-hmm. So you've just you're covering the whole gamut of different things you're doing here. This is great. You're like straight from the art and the music stuff. You're coming into the special effects for cinema stuff.
Yeah, I was really into special effects for a long time. After seeing the making of Star Wars, as a little kid, I was like, wow, that's the
That's
stuff
it.
I want to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I just bought all these American magazines, Fangoria, Gore Zone, and Gore Zone actually had always had a feature in there about how to make certain special effects.
Mhm.
So I was really intrigued with that, and started recreating a lot of the stuff that I read in these magazines, and which was really horrible
God.
stuff. Oh yeah, this is maybe not really suitable for kids, but
Oh, when I was a kid, this was totally suitable for
yeah,
me. Man. This is my
yeah, for
favorite
me
thing.
too. But I wish I was in New York a little bit earlier on.
So really good quality stuff. This is latex, or what are you working with here?
Oh yeah, there's different materials, but this was for a police series that ran in the Netherlands, in the 90s. So this is obviously a burn
Wow.
victim,
Wow.
and the hardest part was actually to look at some of the real stuff, to actually make it look real.
As reference.
Yeah. So I really didn't like that part. I'm all about the fake stuff,
Yeah.
But I just had to make it, as real as possible. Well, some wounds, of course. This was for a short shot in Amsterdam years ago. This is a fake arm with somebody slit his wrist, and this was made from gelatin. So it would actually, cut,
Awesome.
and bleed, and this
And
was
you
a
use
dummy.
like the hydraulic kind of blood effects and stuff like that too, where you're like squirting blood out kind of thing?
Yeah. All integrated within, the prosthetic, so it
Mhm.
would actually, look as real as possible. And
Wow, this is really great. So what we just saw a second ago, was that a complete arm that you made?
Yeah.
So you
And
cast
there's,
that, that's latex also? Or?
Yeah, and this was actually cast from an actor, and
Mhm.
this gets chopped off in a movie.
Mhm. Awesome.
And the photo on the right it's a full face appliance, so her whole face is covered with latex, but in the shot she actually had to bleed from her eyes and nose, so I actually had to cover up all these tubes in there,
Mhm.
which was pretty hard to do.
And to make it look this good. This
And
is
this
really
was,
high quality stuff. I mean,
it
you
was
should be
fun
going
to do
Hollywood
this.
doing
Because I did this for a studio called Atelier Shoot in Rotterdam, also in the 90s. But actually, this is a photograph of a live cast of Jackie Chan, the karate
Oh, really?
actor. Yeah.
Yeah, we're Jackie Chan fans here for sure, man. So this is him in the chair? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, cool.
You can't really tell,
What
but
is that
I'm
for?
not lying.
What was he doing? What was that for?
This was made for a film that he did years ago called yeah. The title was Who Am I? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was partly shot in Rotterdam, so they asked
I see.
just local special effects
that's
guys
great.
and actors to be in the movie as well, and participate. So luckily, I was one of them. This was a test for a record cover that I did for a famous Dutch singer, and this was also a dummy for a museum.
Oh, that's not just a mask on an actor?
No, it's all fake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can see it here. It's
Oh,
all
yeah,
the,
super cool.
separate parts. Yeah. And the next one is this is actually
Oh,
just
cool.
a zombie. I used to make a lot of zombies, back in the days. It was really fun working on. There's a zombie makeup I did, for a video in 1995 for a famous Dutch house DJ, Paul Elstak, and he had a huge hit with that video. But it's really, I was really young, and it was really amateuristic video, but I really enjoyed making it, and
It looks
good
amazing.
memories.
That's a really scary zombie. I mean, it really, the authenticity of it looks great. It looks like Night of the Living Dead quality, man.
Well, thanks, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
What was the music like on that? It was an electronic musician? Or?
Yeah, it's happy hardcore.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, so can you set up the next video that we're about to see here?
Oh yeah, so the next video is a live performance that I did with this music project that I'm doing for many years now, called Deformer, and it's pretty progressive electronic music. A lot of jungle influenced music. A lot of breakcore, but also I'm into different kinds of music. I love death metal music. I love reggae too. And all these different genres I combine, with this project. So it goes, from, electronic music to having a reggae feel sometimes, but also death metal and hip hop too.
Cool.
But it's pretty extreme stuff. I like to also integrate these, my special effects background to the live shows. So you will see some chopped off heads too, and
Cool.
spray some blood in the fake blood, that is, of course, in the audience, and
Sure, yeah.
make some
Exactly.
blood
We
boil
know
as
that
well,
really well. It's way easier to
with the
come by.
tunes. And,
Walls are bleeding again.
yeah.
Awesome. So let's go to that clip now. We're going to check that out right now.
Yeah, let's take a look.
And then what we're seeing right now is the Deformer logo, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. It was like an 8-armed monkey.
Actually, it's based on the 3 wise monkeys.
Yeah.
Coming from Asia, but it used to be covering the eyes, the ears. See,
Mhm.
speak, hear no evil. So, but this is the other way around.
Yeah, I love that. He's like
Exact way,
hearing more and
Yeah,
seeing better.
see,
and
scream,
screaming. Yeah. Super
hear.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And this is some still images of that performance we just saw.
Oh no, it's
Or-
a different performance, but yeah, they all look kind of similar.
Oh, I
of
see.
course,
Sorry.
Yeah.
And
Where is this performance we're looking at now?
I can't really remember, to be honest. No, but we've toured a lot, and this is actually a record cover. It's a collage of pornographic images.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow.
But from a distance,
Should we
you
zoom
only
in
see
on
a monkey's head.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, people will now really link the music with the record covers easily, because
Yeah.
it's drum and bass music,
Mhm.
but kind of looks like a death metal record, right?
Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah, and this is I had the chance to actually work with Public Enemy for one of the Deformer releases. So that became the Check What You're Listening to remix vinyl, which was released in 2008. So I'm really thankful, especially DJ Lord there, DJ and Chuck D, that made this possible. Because I'm a huge Public Enemy fan,
Mhm.
that's where it all started for me. Screwing open these cassette tapes, and listening to the productions of the Bomb Squad. And at the same time, during that period, the whole Def Jam era, also listened to Slayer, so I was inspired, by all kinds of different music back then. And you can still hear it, in the stuff that I'm doing right now, I think.
Awesome. That's cool. What is that?
This is a side project from Deformer called Videopacalypse. It's based on an old computer console dating back to 1978. And there are just a few bleeps in there, but I sampled the sounds. And I wanted to make one track, but I couldn't stop, using these sounds. So it turned out to be a whole album.
Awesome.
And so this was the Videopacalypse project. And it goes along with a lot of 8-bit visuals and during live shows. But we only had a couple of them,
Yeah.
And was it completely produced from the samples? Or
Yeah.
are you mixing? Oh, just
well, also
complete-
mixing different sounds. Yeah, but these bleep sounds, were primary and
Right.
within every production. Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, this is yet another different
Is
different thing.
One of the other hats you wear, right? This is for a video project you're doing, right, or a documentary?
Yeah, this is a documentary that I did about a Dutch visual artist called Dietwigman, and he makes these shadow sculptures from trash. So he makes this pile of trash and points a light at it and forms these incredible shadows on the wall. And he was actually one of the first to ever do that, within contemporary art, I think, and because he's been doing this for nearly 50 years already, and he didn't really want to speak about his art,
Right.
so we decided to make this documentary without spoken word. So it's just his art, and he does a lot of different things too that actually communicates with the viewer. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You
just
don't have to
blown away.
be told through some dialogue that you're having, but watching him do it, kind of thing, and
also metaphorically, show certain pieces that you really got to think about to really understand what he's talking about. But if you're into it, I think
That's
It's-
really
it's
great.
a trip.
I love the method of it itself, the idea of just taking garbage and making it divine or something. And that's
yeah,
really cool.
it also makes you look at trash in a different way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not throwing anything away, from
Yeah.
the point seeing that.
Yeah, right. Really responsible art.
Yeah.
So, what are we looking at? This is a clip from.
Oh yeah, that's a Dutch
Understand.
article. I won an award in New York City with this documentary, and in LA too. I guess because it's not using any Dutch language in there.
Right. Well, I mean, you bring up a pragmatic point, just about how many people you can reach, and something like that doesn't have any dialogue in it.
Yeah, and it's also about visual art, right? So
Mhm.
I just wanted to focus it mainly on the visual aspect of it,
Yeah.
and still tell a story with it.
And did you use music in the story as
Yeah,
well?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to see that, man. What's that called?
Anagram.
Anagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool, really intriguing.
Well,
like
thank
you were
you.
describing, people at home couldn't hear, but you were describing what we were looking at as that was happening. Can you just comment on making of the table again that we just saw?
Yeah, so this artist, Diet Wiegman, he sawed this table into small pieces, and I sampled these sounds and made a composition out of it, because his idea was to just form the word table with it, because naming it a table was just an agreement that we have, so we know that what we're talking about. But forming the actual table into other pieces, still remains the same table, but within a different form. And that's also what I use as an inspiration, using these samples, because that's also the table, also I'm sorry, reusing, the whole table format.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. I also like how connected you are, that you're bringing the form full circle with the people you're collaborating with. Like you did that, I think, with did you say the other artist that you were doing, she was working in charcoal?
Yeah.
Right, and so you did this video that leads up to the meaning of the video, and at the end it's the
Right.
medium that she's about to start something new.
Yeah.
And I'm getting that same thing from this project. It's very cool how conceptually it's within the art is this mode of two artists working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the language
forming
of you guys collaborating is
one
inside
piece
of it.
eventually. This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I look forward to seeing that. I want to check that out. So what are we seeing here? This is you holding. What are you holding up here? What is this?
Yeah, it's old, VHS tape of a documentary that I did in 2001 or
Mhm.
2002.
Mm-hmm.
Walkman is about the history of hip hop culture in Rotterdam City, because there used to be a very tight movement over there. Everybody taking the hip hop culture very seriously by actually looking at all these artists coming from New York mostly. But there were some guys really early in because around here it started around late 60s already, right? In 73 it started evolving, and first commercial record in 79, Studio Gang, but that was the period that it was picked up a little in Rotterdam. 79,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of people, actually a few people that started, breaking, popping and locking a little, in squares. Everybody was looking at them, what are these guys doing, But that formed the basis of, hip hop culture in the Netherlands as well, and everybody wanted to make it, in the States, everybody listened to all these tracks like, I want to rap too, and write lyrics and, spray paint, the city, bomb the planet, and so yeah, I wanted to, actually, make sure that a lot of the forgotten local heroes, from Rotterdam and the Netherlands that were, very important for the Netherlands and Dutch culture as well, to actually, tell their story.
That's great.
And, yeah.
So, and you got to go find those guys, and you're interviewing them or something in the film, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody participated, and I really went looking in, humid attics and basements, just find all these old tapes, videos, and some of the stuff. A lot of people, that are interviewed actually were, have forgotten about, and so actually dubbed a lot of these tapes for these guys, to have some of their own history as well, and hopefully it also inspired, another generation, because they were working with different kinds of material, of course, and magazines that weren't even calling it urban, just a lot of stuff changed, but figuring out everything from scratch, was pretty exciting,
Right.
and was pretty similar, I think, to the stuff that happened here in New York City, but on another level, 'cause,
Yeah.
you're trying to rap, in English, and it's just a different thing, it's very hard, just to adapt, to that, you want to reach. So there's not a lot of people that actually made it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great noble pursuit too, in the preservation you're doing. Just in, like you say, like some of those artists didn't even have their own copies of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you're like
Yeah.
actually the preservation and.
And you know, everybody was dubbing tapes, you know. So you always hope that you had a first generation tape, so it sounded good, you know,
Mhm.
because it would fade away. And yeah, but it was exciting, you know. Everybody listened to, you know, everybody's stuff and try to, you know, compete with that, you know, and
Mhm.
come with, you know, louder beats, you know, different samples, you know, more, you know, tighter lyrics, and yeah. So it was pretty serious.
That's cool.
You know,
Yeah.
well, you know, a lot of the battling, you know, got out of hand, you know, and but yeah, it came with, you know, also being, you know, serious about, you know, your craft and the things that you wanted to do, and it was very much about, you know, expression, and yeah, that's what that documentary is about.
That's awesome. Just seeing the influence in the world of hip hop culture too. I mean, I imagine
Yeah.
to the rest of the world at some point, New York City must have seemed like, what the fuck is going on in New York City?
Yeah.
Where is all this?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and how that
I
spreads.
remember,
and
you
some
know-
things are similar and some things change and become its own new genre in some ways.
Right.
But it's still got that same core. What
Yeah,
were you
yeah.
gonna say? You're.
No, everybody respected what was going on over here, you know,
Mhm.
and it was so new,
Mhm.
you know, to all of us, you know, back home. And I remember, you know, because I'm from a later generation, there were guys, you know, before me doing all kinds of stuff. But I remember seeing Hey You know, Rocksteady Crew, you know, breaking. I was a small kid. I was, wow, what the hell are they doing, you know?
Right.
Spinning around, seeing all these colors, you know, graffiti and everything, you know. So the first thing I did was, you know, get a cardboard box, you know, from the local, you know, grocery store, you know. And yeah, well, it turned out breaking was, you know, nothing for me, you know. I couldn't do that, but and so it was really amazing, you know. Also, you know, actually meeting Cradle Legs years later.
Oh, cool.
And so yeah, I just trying to, you know, make these circles
Right.
around, you know, and
Right.
appreciate, you know, the pioneers.
I
And
think
also
it's
to
great,
Cool Herc's house, you know, and Sadwick Avenue,
Yeah.
you know, and
That's awesome.
yeah, you know, because I think, you know, people should really acknowledge, you know, where a lot of stuff comes from, and it's yeah, important, you know. And I'm really interested in the roots of, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, not just hip hop culture, but also started being interested in Egypt history too, you know, looking at these Iron Maiden covers, you know.
Nice.
So yeah, it's about, you know, the interest you have for a certain thing, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And
I
it
love
didn't
how
stop.
you're making all these connections too and collaborating with people, and you've turned your love for a type of an expression of a culture into like a whole label that is helping other people not only recognize but come up hopefully and
Yeah, and
Get
some
some
things
experience
really,
and-
yeah, get picked up. Other things, you know, just get left behind, you know, and stay there, or, you know. But yeah, you just gotta, you know, I think keep it going, you know, and believe in the things that you're doing, and hopefully inspire people, you know. And a lot of people inspire me, and it goes back and forth, you know, and you know, yeah.
awesome. That's the way to do it. I mean, as far as I can tell from the little bit I've got going on, I said that's the best thing. Keep making connections and, you know, take what you love and,
Right.
you know, live there.
It brings a lot of
You know?
joy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, every day is a day of your life, and all these days form your whole life, you know. So I just don't. I'm really, you know, want to use my time right, you know, having fun, you know.
Well said.
Yeah.
man. Yes, Mike. Exactly. Dude, for sure.
Yeah, because and of course, you know, you got to pay the rent. You know, sometimes you have to do horrible jobs, but on the other side, you also, you know, need to invest in yourself and your ideas. You can have dreams, but you got to wake up to realize those dreams, you know,
Mhm.
and really take it serious, and so you can take it to a next level. Because I don't really believe in starving artists, you know, because I think you really, when you invest enough time, you know, and look at it very seriously and see if you can put it out there a little, you know, I think you can easily pay the rent. You know, maybe you cannot drive a Bentley, you know, but you can obviously, you know, pay the rent. I know a lot of people that have different jobs that they really don't like, but it's distracting them from the things that they actually want to do, and don't have enough power to invest in the things that they really want to do themselves, and come from the heart. So sometimes it's difficult, but I'm, doing it for 15 years already. I live with my art, totally. And I'm even being, really cocky sometimes, by not doing stuff because I really don't like to do it. But it also makes that, I'm not a rich guy, but I'm rich in another type of way, I have a old couch, but
Yeah.
I can work on my own ideas, and that's what I like. And I feel really uncomfortable when I, can't work on my music or make movies or, what else,
Awesome.
Wow,
That's
that
deep,
was,
man.
that was too long. I know.
No, that was deep. That was deep.
I'm inspired.
Just the right amount of time.
That's exactly what we need to hear, man. That's
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
I know, right?
rallying cry.
Right.
Right now.
Man, quite inspiring. Very cool.
But it's 24 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Did we see this picture? Are we going
No,
back to those
we
pictures?
haven't seen this yet.
Or are we about to wrap up? 'Cause we got to show that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This almost. Wait, this is a video coming up?
No, this is just a.
Why does it say P?
Oh, so tell us about this photo.
Wow. Yeah. Well, actually, that's one of my heroes too. Chuck D from Public Enemy. He's so inspiring. And really voice too. And to be able to give him some of my records. And do a remix for Public Enemy, and also DJ at some of their shows. As a support act. It was really
That's cool,
a dream come
man.
true.
Wow.
I didn't even really dream it, it was just, impossible,
That's not
first.
possible. How's that gonna?
Yeah, it's not even worth dreaming.
No.
That's not gonna happen.
But yeah, sometimes, if you, just keep believing in what you're doing and get up early or go to bed early after, a long night of work, and try to approach people, that are hopefully, also, interested in certain things, you might just have a chance to eventually work with them,
Yeah.
Awesome. That's something I've seen to be proven true too. Yeah, that's great. Man, I'm bummed that you have to go back to the Netherlands. Come
Yeah,
hang
well,
out
me
with us.
too, man. Trust me.
build up the Sulphurbath spirits every week. And who's this? You're posing here with.
Yeah, another hero, Larry Graham, icon bass player, used to be, Sly and the Family
Sly and the
stuff,
Family stuff.
and also Graham's Central Station, of course, his own group, and I had the chance to do an interview with him because I did this documentary called Sample Not For Sale, and that's about the sampling culture within music, and Larry Graham was, very important, and also Sly and the Family Stone, of course, got, really sampled like crazy,
Yeah.
So I really wanted to speak to him and see, what he thinks about, people reusing his work, and also had the chance to speak to George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, Fred Wesley, Idris Muhammad, a
Wow,
lot of these
cool.
original artists that were so important, for within music history. And well, there's a couple of new projects I'm working on, a new documentary, and also a lot of new Deformer stuff. About to release 2 new records.
Cool.
Some pretty heavy stuff, I think.
Awesome.
Very horror influenced stuff, and yeah.
You got 2 records with Deformer coming out.
Yeah.
Are they collaborations or is it just a Deformer solo?
Oh no, it's former solo stuff, and
cool.
I'm also trying to get some remix stuff done as well. I'm about to tour with Bongra, the breakcore artist from the Netherlands. He released.
You mentioned him earlier. Yeah, I'm not familiar though.
You said he was a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same guy. Okay.
Yeah, and he did this album called Bikini Bandits, where he was able to use. I don't know if you know this TV program, Bikini Bandits. from back in the days, you know,
I've
from
heard of it.
Gmart with all these girls, you know, with bikinis.
I can imagine.
But anyway,
And bandits that
Um,
steal them?
Oh.
Is that how that works?
no.
Yeah.
But that's a record we did 3 years ago, and we're about to release a remix album
Cool.
and do a tour with these classic tracks. European tour as well, and there's a lot of stuff already.
There's a lot of
and,
stuff.
Yeah, and it all sounds very incoherent, maybe, but to me everything's connected. When I make music, you know, I see colors. You know, when I paint something, I hear music. You know, so it's all the same to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like synesthesia of the creative mind. Yeah, that's great, man. No, it sounds like you're really prolific and you're all over the board with all the different things you're doing, and I'm really interested, man. It's like a lot of cool stuff going on. We look forward to the next documentary, the next album.
Well, thanks so
The
much.
next
You know,
tour.
I'm really glad that you know, the opportunity to talk with you guys. You know, and
Cool.
share a
Glad you
little.
came.
Yeah, keep in
Madness.
touch with us, man. As you're on the road and touring and stuff, write us an email here and there.
Sure.
Let us know how
Well,
Red Rum is
definitely,
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Red Rum Records with a Z.
What is it?
Mike Redman.
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
my pleasure to meet you, man. That was a good segment, man.
Thanks
Thanks
a lot.
for
Cool.
coming.
Thank you. Mike
Thanks.
Redman. I want everybody to go check out Red Rum Records with a Z.